Breaking news! Coach Sean Payton is eyeing free agency, and a piece of news that has been circulating in the last few hours has sparked a lot of discussion among analysts and fans. This is a player that many teams are looking for. Will the Denver Broncos sign this contract? I'll tell you everything. But first, make sure you've already hit the like button if you believe Sean Payton has been doing a good job with the Denver Broncos. If 0 to 10, what grade would you give Payton? Comment below. Your opinion is very important. So let's get to the point. The Denver Broncos may be making a serious move in free agency, and this is a game changer. Ernest Jones, one of the top inside linebackers available this offseason, has been heavily linked to Denver, and if the rumors are true, this could mean big things for the Broncos defense going forward. Let's break it down. The buzz surrounding Jones began when NFL insider Lou Scalia made a bold statement about the Broncos' interest in the linebacker. He suggested that Denver is ready to throw a significant contract his way, and considering Jones' performance over the past few seasons, it's easy to see why. This is a player who recorded 138 tackles one season and 145 the next, an absolute force in the middle of the field. He has the ability to block passing lanes, make critical stops in the run game, and be the kind of playmaker that takes a defense from good to elite. Now, Broncos fans might be asking themselves, do we really need to go after another defensive player? It's a fair question, especially considering Denver had one of the league's top pass rushing units last season. They led the NFL in sacks, finishing ahead of teams like the Baltimore Ravens, who didn't even come close in the final tally. The defense hasn't exactly been a weakness, but here's the thing, signing Ernest Jones isn't about filling a hole. It's about upgrading an already strong unit and solidifying the Broncos' identity as a defensive powerhouse. If the Broncos were to land Jones, it wouldn't just be about adding another solid linebacker, it would be a statement. A 4-year, $52 million deal is the rumored projection for his contract, and if Denver is willing to invest that much, it means they believe he can be a cornerstone piece for years to come. The key here is understanding that Jones is a luxury signing, not a necessity. The Broncos don't need him to survive, but if they get him, it could take them to another level. A player like this can be the difference between a good defense and a championship caliber one. But there's another side to the story that we have to talk about. Denver recently received its annual NFLPA report card, which grades teams on everything from ownership to locker room conditions. And while the Broncos scored well in most areas, landing in the top 7 for ownership and ranking decently in nutrition, training, and facilities, there was one glaring issue that stood out. The locker room was graded an F. Yes, you heard that right, an F. That kind of grade raises major red flags. What exactly is happening inside the Broncos locker room that players felt the need to rate it so poorly? Is it a facilities issue? A chemistry issue? A coaching issue? Nobody knows for sure, but what we do know is that everything starts from the top down. The good news? Broncos players spoke highly of ownership, praising the direction the team is heading in and expressing confidence in the leadership of George Payton and Sean Payton. That's a huge positive because, in the NFL, bad ownership usually leads to bad coaching hires, which then trickles down to poor on-field performance. Just look at teams like the Panthers, Jets, and Giants, franchises that have struggled for years because of instability at the top. The Broncos, at least in that regard, seem to be in a strong position. So where does that leave Denver heading into the 2025 season? Well, despite the locker room concerns, there's a lot to be optimistic about. The Broncos defied expectations last year, with players like Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning stepping up in big ways. Sean Payton managed to turn things around, and now, with free agency and the draft coming up, the team has a chance to take another leap forward. The big question now is, should the Broncos go all in on Ernest Jones? Would signing him be the missing piece to take this team to the next level? And what's going on with that locker room grade? Should fans be concerned, or is it just an overblown issue? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it. If the Broncos do pull the trigger on an Ernest Jones signing, it could have a ripple effect on the entire defensive unit. We already know that Denver is one of the best linebacker rooms in the league, but adding Jones would provide the kind of versatility and depth that championship defenses thrive on. Imagine the possibilities, Jones playing alongside Josie Jewell, if he's re-signed, or working in tandem with Alex Singleton. That's the kind of linebacker duo that makes offensive coordinators lose sleep at night. And let's not forget about the impact this could have on the rest of the defense. Denver's pass rush was elite last season, and a linebacker like Jones, who excels in coverage and run stopping, could make life even easier for the guys up front. The Broncos' defensive line already caused havoc for opposing quarterbacks, but if you add a sideline-to-sideline linebacker who can erase mistakes in the middle of the field. That turns a strong unit into a dominant one. One of the biggest concerns for the Broncos last season was their ability to defend against the pass, particularly in the middle of the field. We saw multiple games where tight ends and slot receivers were able to exploit gaps in Denver's coverage. Jones could be the answer to that problem. He has the athleticism and instincts to stick with tight ends, disrupt passing lanes, and bring down receivers before they can turn short catches into big gains. In today's NFL, where offenses are built around quick passes and exploiting mismatches, having a linebacker who can neutralize those threats is invaluable. Of course, nothing is guaranteed in free agency. There are other teams who will be interested in Jones, and the Broncos will have to decide if they're willing to pay top dollar for him. A 4-year, $52 million contract is a major investment, and while it could be worth every penny, Denver also has other areas to address, most notably at quarterback. With the departure of Russell Wilson and questions surrounding the future of the position, some fans might argue that spending big money on a linebacker isn't the best use of resources. But here's the counterpoint. A dominant defense can elevate an entire team. If Denver builds an elite defense, it can take pressure off the offense, create turnovers, and win games even when the offense struggles. Just look at what the San Francisco 49ers and Baltimore Ravens have done in recent years. Strong defensive play has kept them in Super Bowl contention despite some inconsistency at quarterback. That brings us back to the bigger picture. The Broncos are in the middle of a crucial offseason, one that will determine whether they take the next step or continue hovering in mediocrity. The report card grades were mostly solid, but that F for the locker room? That's something the team needs to figure out. Is it a facilities issue? A chemistry problem? A coaching disconnect? These are questions that need answers because the best teams in the league don't just have talent. They have strong locker room leadership and cohesion. At the same time, the front office needs to be aggressive in free agency. If they want to compete in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, they can't afford to sit back and hope things work out. They need to take calculated risks, make smart acquisitions, and ensure that every dollar spent moves them closer to being a legitimate contender. So, Broncos fans, where do you stand on all of this? Should Denver go all in on Ernest Jones and build an elite defense? Or should they focus their resources elsewhere, maybe on bolstering the offense or finding their next franchise quarterback? And what do you make of that locker room grade? Cause for concern, or just a minor issue? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get this conversation started. The Denver Broncos are making headlines with strong links to linebacker Ernest Jones in free agency. A 4-year, $52 million deal could add another elite piece to an already dominant defense. Jones' ability to rack up tackles and improve coverage would elevate the Broncos, but is he a luxury or a necessity? Meanwhile, the team's NFLPA report card raises concerns, especially an alarming F grade for the locker room. Is this a chemistry issue or something deeper? With a critical offseason ahead, Denver must decide whether to go all in on defense or focus on bigger needs. What do you think? Should the Broncos make a push for Jones, or is there a better way to spend their money? And what's going on with that locker room grade? Let's talk about it. Go Broncos!